Today we're focusing on the close range meta, which I think has a little bit more opportunity for variety than sometimes our long range meta, which mainly consists of the NZ41. We're going to be talking about some of the important characteristics as we go through different loadouts. And within the video, we'll be giving class setups for Modern Warfare Cold War, as well as the majority, which is Vanguard. And something to remember is there's always going to be a meta. No matter how well balanced the game is, there's always a couple weapons that rise to the top. It just depends on how big that gap is between the meta and the rest of the weapons that are top tier viable. So we'll be covering that all in today's video. Before we get into it, we do have a quick sponsored segment, which we'll do right now. Today's video is brought to you by Factor, which makes meeting your nutrition goals that much easier with fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals straight to your doorstep. Their team of gourmet chefs create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. And Factor supports wholesome eating made simple with variety, with a rotating weekly menu of 25 plus meal options and Factor Plus add-ons, or let Factor craft your order based on your taste, preferences, and meal history. And it's super convenient. With Factor, there is no prep and no mess. Factor cuts out stressful meal planning and extensive prepping, so meals come together in minutes, taking the guesswork out of what to make for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Factor meals arrive pre-prepared and ready to eat within 2 minutes, even faster than ordering in takeout. And one of my favorites was the tostada bake with Mexican cauliflower rice and sour cream. Head to go.factor75.com/JGOD120. Use code JGOD120 for $120 off. Or you can click that link in the description. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Welcome back. One thing that we've really seen a little bit of a shift is how much they've kind of weakened the SMGs to the point where a lot of them have 650 to 700 TTKs, which make it so that sometimes there are rifles that can actually beat them up close. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go a little bit further, but I'm going to do a little bit more of a focus on sniper supports if you guys are interested. We kind of break down what weapons you can use up close and as well as medium range, because there's a lot of good options. So first off, we'll start with our honorable mentions, and there's actually like 5 different weapons you can choose from when it comes to over here. You can actually go with the MAC-10, you can go with the AK-74U, which is pretty decent with the 300 health now. Milano's still okay, a little bit more of a beam. MP5, it's kind of like a weaker version of the OTS. And then we also have PPSH, which is still pretty good, a little bit better version than the MAC-10, kind of on par. Nail gun didn't have enough ammo. Tech 9 is solid, but you got to unlock all the attachments. Lapa's kind of more of a sniper support. I mean, there's a lot of, in the UGR, got a buff, but really no one went back to use it because it's small mag kind of held it back. And that's one thing that really becomes important with damage per mag, because you do have to reload, and that's always the part that will get you killed when you have to decide, do I plate or do I reload? Because if you have to reload and prioritize reloading so you can get into the gunfight, then there's a risk that you're not going to be fully plated. If you don't have to worry about reloading, then you can fully plate, and that guarantees at least that you have an opportunity to have an even playing field with the fight. So that becomes particularly important with loadouts, but it all depends on whether you play solos, duos, trios, quads. Are you passive? Are you aggressive? Are you a combination of both, depending on what part of the zone you're in? Those are all factors that you have to consider. And then I give you a couple options based off of that, and you kind of fit what works best for you. Obviously, I only have like a few loadouts that I'm going to cover here, so if one didn't make the cut, that's okay. You can have a lot of fun using whatever gun you want. But right here, we'll focus on the Bullfrog. The Bullfrog's actually kind of one of those niche guns that's super like consistent because it's low recoil. And we use a Group Suppressor Task Force, Tiger Team Spotlight, Skeletal Stock, and Serpent Wrap. Its ADS speed is decent, so if you wanted to drop the Serpent and put on a bigger mag like the 65, or go full crazy and go 85, if you want to be able to take on more teams, the TTK isn't stupid good, but you don't miss a lot of shots, so you get really close to that TTK being a practical TTK. So definitely try it if you haven't given that one a shot in a while. OTS has all the movement, but really lacks in the mag size. If this had a 55-60, especially after the change to 300 health, like I said, the damage per mag becomes a little bit of an issue, even though it kills comparable to some of the other options that we're going to have at the top of the list. We got Group Suppressor Task Force, Skeletal, 40 round fast mag with the Serpent Wrap, and that's kind of how you go. You could always drop the Serpent Wrap, go Bruiser if you want a little bit more mobility, or even go Tiger Team Spotlight on that laser. That brings us to the Modern Warfare honorable mention. There's actually a couple different good options here. You can go with the Fennec, which kills stupid fast, but it's primarily a solo gun, or you got to be really skilled to be able to get those reloads in, because 40 bullets comes out really quick. Like I said, there will be guns that I do leave off. There's guns like the MP5, MP7 still good. Bison is a little bit better after the buff. P90 is a little bit more mid, but overall, we got a couple good solid options here. The AUG right here is probably one of the fastest killing SMGs in the entire game. It's probably one of the fastest killing close range guns in the game. The problem is the mobility. This gun will delete people and you have enough ammo to do it. So you run the monolithic tac laser mini reflex stippled with the 60 round drum. If you want to go a little bit faster, you could drop monolithic, go ahead and put on the 30 round, go sleight of hand. You can get rid of monolithic altogether and you can actually put on a stock that'll allow you to have a little bit faster aim down sight, and you'll aim down sight pretty good, even with the 60 round mag. This thing does kill pretty fast. Then we got the CX9 class, which is actually okay. I think the damage per mag kind of sucks still because it's kind of one of those guns that shoots fast but doesn't do a ton of damage. So you kind of got to balance that out. We got CX38S, 5 milliwatt, the CXFR, which is this stock right here on the bottom, which is like a collapsible stock. And then we got sleight of hand in the 50 round drum. And the sleight of hand is primarily if you're dealing with trios or quads, just because you have to reload, you might as well do it faster. And that's going to bring us to our top 6 here. But keep in mind that you can use almost any option from Vanguard. They are built to have a little bit faster TTK. There's a ton of combinations with recoil booster, the tape grip that gives you mobility, even after they fixed it to make it do what it's supposed to. But overall, you don't have to focus as much on recoil if you're keeping it within about 12 meters. If you're pushing it to about 20 meters, then you might have a little bit more preference towards one option or another. Keeping in mind that a lot of stuff is preference, right? MP40 is still an okay option just because it doesn't have all that much recoil. And when you do this one, recoil booster, the short, slate reflector, folding, momentum, or you can go with steady if you want better strafe speed. You can go brace if you want a little bit better recoil. Just keep in mind with how brace stacks with certain attachments. And a tape grip is kind of cool just because it kind of offers amped, which allows you to go ahead and run the combat scout perk if you want to run that, if you're going to be running this on your SMG. And then we got the 45 round lengthen and then hand stop, or you can go with strife angled, which has been a little more popularized, or we can go with the skeletal stock if you want all movement because you have no problem controlling the recoil. Then we're going to go with the Sten, which is kind of a little bit of sleeper. It got buffed and not as many people are talking about it, even though it kind of fits a little bit right there where it's good in a lot of different areas, but it's probably not the best in one specific area. Its damage per mag is okay because you get a 50 round mag. We got recoil booster, rapid, slate reflector, Gawain custom, acrobatic. You could go momentum, or like I said, if you want to go gung-ho for a hipfire build, you'd modify the build slightly, or you could even go frenzy so you can get, there's a lot of good options on that one, right? Quick, taped, 50 round, subsonic, and skeletal. And this is kind of the combination for a lot of the Vanguard guns. If you struggle with recoil control, you swap out the underbarrel for recoil control, and you either go strife angled or you go hand stop. Those are kind of the main two options you go, or you change the stock to something that's going to help with recoil, right? So that's kind of the common sense thing there. And then brings us to the next ones, which have kind of been the meta for a while now, or at least top tier viable, because at the end of the day, when I'm talking about these meta videos, in reality, like this first one is literally the meta. Everything else is top tier viable. I know sometimes people get confused because we talk about meta. I could do a video on these two weapons at the top and then that's it and give nobody any options, but I try to give you at least some competitive options that don't necessarily put you at a huge disadvantage, that maybe if you're tired of using the same gun every day, you can have a little bit of variety. Because for me, I get bored using the same guns after like an hour. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with the NZ. I hate using it, right? So it's kind of one of those things, but for SMGs, right? So we got the Type 100, which has been solid for a while. The biggest flaw with this one is the damage per mag can struggle a little bit because the bullets come out fast, and if you miss any shots, you get penalized pretty hard with the 36 round mag, especially in trios or quads. Solos, duos, you're pretty good, but there are instances because you're going to full send something, but because of that behavior, you didn't have a chance to reload, and you really have to hit 100% of your shots. So it can be a little bit higher skill, but this thing does delete. You usually do not going to lose a 1v1. The Warabachi rapid, slate reflector, grip, Warabachi grip folding, sleight of hand because of the reload issue, quick, tape, subsonic, skeletal, and there we're good to go. Then the Arma, it did get a buff, but it's still kind of right there where it's good at the little bit longer range, but up close, it still gets beat out by the other options that we're going to talk about up ahead. even though it has great mobility, recoils, all there, right? Recoil booster, the precision barrel, the slate reflector, the Emerito SA folding hard scope, but you could easily go with something like steady if you want a better strafe speed, or even vital if you feel like it helps, even though for the vast majority of situations, vital is not worth using. We got quick, take grip, subsonic, the skeletal, and the 60 round for the reasons that we kind of talked about with those two attachments. And that brings us to the actual meta, right? That where the meta chasers sit. And this is the meta. Everything else or any other guns you want to include are not meta. Right now, it's the NZ41 for long range with a couple other top tier viable options. And then you have the Marco or the Blixen. And it kind of comes down to preference. The Marco now kind of power rankings, it moved a little bit above the Blixen in my opinion, but both are really good options, have very good TTKs, and they're right in the right spot in terms of movement. They clearly defined these weapons to be the meta. So we got the Marco, which has recoil booster, the Perfetto Lesto 355mm slate reflector, the Emerito FR, frenzy and quick, and then this one could actually be momentum as well if you want a little bit better mobility, and if you want to go hip fire, you go gung-ho. We got tape grip, 48 round drum, subsonic, and then skeletal stock. The 48 round drum is just because you get a little bit better mobility than the 60 round, even though they're very comparable. Like in terms of damage and stuff like that, it's not going to be an issue, but the mobility of the 48 is just a little bit faster, since a lot of times making your opponent miss is just as important as you hitting your shots, right? So that's kind of how that part goes. And then we got the Blixen, which is standard build. Recoil booster, the last barrel, which is this Bergstrom 17-inch. With slate reflector, remove stock, flake quick, taped. With the skeletal, the 54 Gorenko and hollow point. We talked a little bit about this combination. But the thing here is you can switch things up. If you feel like the recoil is too much, which really shouldn't be with this build, you could change the stock or again the underbarrel to something like a strife angled or the hand stop. That's the loadouts. Hopefully you enjoy. Appreciate the support and content. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.